السلام عليكم واهلا بكم في حلقه جديده من راديو هاك بودكاست. Hello everybody and welcome to Radio Hack Podcast. This is Youssef Muhammad, aka GeneralEG. Today we are doing a special podcast with a very special guest, John Hammond. Really appreciate you being in the show, John.
Well, hey, thank you so much. I'm super happy to be here with you guys, and thanks for letting me come hang out.
Pleasure. Okay, so you are very popular content maker and security researcher. But how about introducing yourself for the people who don't know you yet?
Oh, absolutely. So thank you. So hi, hello. My name is John Hammond. I work for kind of my day job, right? I work as a senior security researcher at a cybersecurity vendor called Huntress. We do managed threat detection. So a little bit more blue team oriented than kind of traditional red team, but we kind of really appreciate and use that offensive adversarial vantage point. I spend my days kind of analyzing malware, getting into the nitty gritty, making hackers earn their access, and it's a lot of fun. But off on the side, I try to do YouTube. I'm a cybersecurity content creator. I try to just share and spread education, just kind of general knowledge, whether it's capture the flag walkthroughs or showcasing different cybersecurity events. I just try to be in the scene and on the keyboard, right?
Yeah, big fan. Okay, can you tell us about your first job? How you got your first job and what was it?
Totally. Yeah, thanks so much. So I think I had an interesting road, to be honest. My very, very first position when I was kind of just getting into the industry was it sounds so weird to say it, was an instructor. It was a teacher. It was kind of, hey, someone, at the front of the room, teaching the classroom. I worked for the United States Department of Defense Cyber Training Academy. So a lot of military members and even some civilian personnel, I helped kind of create and craft the course for cyber threat emulation. Again, much more red teaming, much more adversarial minded, pen testing, bug bounty sort of thing. And I would deliver the course and I would teach, get up, up in the podium and point to the PowerPoint for like 8 hours a day. And that was a lot of fun. Kind of really blended well with a lot of the education and stuff that I do on my YouTube channel. But that was my first position, and then kind of, hey, bumbled and fumbled my way along to where I am now.
Yeah, sure. Okay, and what about your current job? What are you doing actually on Huntress?
Yeah, so at Huntress, I am in the research and development kind of arm of the threat operations department. So threat operations or threat ops is kind of like I can't say a SOC, but like a security operations center or like a NOC, a network operations center, but it's very, very similar in that, hey, when we have incidents or new alerts or just new notifications come through from our partners and their computers, their endpoints, we will go investigate and go analyze. We genuinely have a team of analysts, researchers, and myself, like, to have the human eyeballs and have the human context on malware and implants and beacons and try to see, hey, what command and control framework is doing what impact does this have? Will it lend itself to more devastating actions like ransomware or Bitcoin mining or vandalizing a website, etc. It really kind of runs the gamut, but I have a lot of fun with that, staying technical, and then I still get to do some outreach and education, whether it's talking to reporters or writing podcasts and like this, or writing blog posts, doing webinars, etc., etc. So still kind of out and about.
That's amazing. That's amazing, man. Okay, why did you choose cybersecurity as the first?
Ooh, yeah, thanks so much. I think that's a fun question because I kind of stumbled into it. Originally, I grew up, I think, kind of like any kid might, when they say, hey, I want to make video games or I want to be a hacker. And so I kind of tried to learn just by kind of what I might be able to find online, whether it was YouTube or whether it was Google. And I just tried to learn, hey, how do I make stuff? Like if I wanted to create video games, how do I build software, whether it's writing things in Python or learning C or C++, etc. It wasn't until I kind of got to my undergrad or university, I attended the United States Coast Guard Academy, one of the military academies here in the United States, and they care much more about, hey, if you make something, is it secure? Is it safe? Is it solid and stable? Can we trust this, out and about in the real world? And that really opened my eyes to this whole world of cybersecurity. I fell into the capture the flag scene, and then it was just a ton of fun because they make it a game, right? They make it a puzzle and something to really learn from, and still have the incentive, right? Hey, I want to get higher on the scoreboard. I want to get these prizes. And that was really when the floodgates opened. Like, hey, I want to learn vulnerabilities. I want to learn about exploits, bugs, and software flaws. That's really what spurred the motion.
Yeah, I can relate. Okay. What difficulties did you overcome starting your career in cybersecurity?
Ooh. So difficulties that I overcame, I suppose that's a really good question. When you're first starting out, right, when you're starting your cybersecurity career, oftentimes you might feel like, hey, you're doing all the right things. You know, I'm playing in Hack the Box. I'm doing bug bounty. I'm working in Try Hack Me. I have some CVEs to my name or whatever. But you might still look like kind of a young fella. You know, you might just look like a young kid. I think some of the difficulties are getting people to take you seriously is such a weird way to frame it, but that's genuinely it. We're like, hey, no, I have this competency, I have this merit and this skill set. So I think one of the best ways to overcome that is to really show your work, right? Have a blog, have a GitHub that's public and accessible, have a website, have these YouTube videos, even if that's your style. Just, I don't know, be able to put the portfolio behind your resume so that you can really show, hey, this is everything that I've done, and I'm in the scene. You know, I'm part of the community and part of the culture. I think that that's a good way to help overcome those struggle points when you're still finding your way and a little obscure.
Okay. What motivates you in cybersecurity to continue every day in cybersecurity?
Yeah. Another awesome question. What motivates? This is a fun talking point because I talked about a little bit of Capture the Flag, right, and how we make cybersecurity learning and that sort of a game. And I mentioned a couple war games like online cyber ranges, Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, Cyber Range, and tons of others. And even when you get sort of into the industry and you're working at big businesses and companies and conglomerates, they do these tabletop exercises. And I always think it's funny because in cybersecurity, we make it a game. We sort of trivialize it sometimes by doing all those role-playing games and activities. But what motivates me is that it's not a game. There are real threats and real adversaries and real enemies that might want to do actual harm with computers and insecurity. So I don't know, that drives me forward to learn the next thing or kind of stay up to speed because you know, there is a certain amount of actual risk and danger that comes with our line of work. So I think that's I don't know, that's what makes me get up in the morning is like, hey, how can I contribute? How can I help? How can I be in the fight here with everyone?
You are a good man. I really love the cash out of bug bounty.
Hey, yeah, and that's a good lead just as well. You know, getting paid is a good thing.
yeah, all the time. Okay, what about your work-life balance? How you do it?
I suck at work-life balance.
I
am probably maybe one of the worst examples of a work-life balance because I try to juggle as much as I can, right? Between doing the day job and doing YouTube and hosting some of my own Capture the Flag events and still trying to spread the word of other people's great work. Hey, you're putting on this fantastic podcast. I want to be able to promote that, spread the word. And so many other individuals are doing incredible things. So I want to be in the scene. And it's like, man, there aren't enough hours in the day. I live with my girlfriend. We have an apartment and we have 2 dogs. And it's like, oh, I got to go do the laundry, or like, oh man, I need to make dinner. Dang. So I neglect normal human obligations because like I just want to be back in the action. So I'll totally be maybe working weekends or working super late on a Friday night, working an incident or doing something. But it's fun, you know, you find your passion and you find your love for it. So maybe that's what keeps you cruising through that work-life balance.
Yeah, that's why we don't complain about working late on Friday. Yeah, we love hacking, so yeah, we can do it. Okay, what advice you can give for the beginners?
So there are so many different ways to tackle this and answer this question because there's a lot of good, in my opinion, I think good wisdom to impart. I think probably the biggest and most pithy, sharp, and pointed thing is for beginners, a lot of it can seem a little overwhelming because cybersecurity is huge, ginormous domain. There's so much to learn, and it can feel like drinking from a fire hose. And I feel that too. Like I still feel that. I don't know about you, Youssef, but there's just so
Overwhelming.
much
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, exactly.
I would offer, hey, don't give up. Keep chipping away at something. Find the stuff that you're interested in and something that seems like kind of fun, and then keep poking at it and exploring it, and tinkering with it. I am really, really fortunate in that I am a researcher, quote unquote, which I think is a silly thing, but it's literally kind of taking the exploration process, the just poking around, bumping stuff, trying to see what happens, and doing it with a little bit of intent and purpose. But when you're just starting out, when you're beginning, that's what you got to do. You just uh, read about stuff and play with it and experiment it. And sometimes it might do something super cool. You might get that reverse shell. You might find that bug and that vulnerability. Sometimes you might just be banging your head against the wall for days on end. But hey, don't give up. Something will break through and you'll learn some new things. You'll come out at the other end of it so much better. So don't give up is probably my advice.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, okay. We had a good brief about our guest today, and we are ready to move to the topic ransomware attacks. And you can start now if you want.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So hey, thanks so much, Youssef, for kind of letting me take the stage for some chatter on those real legitimate threats, right? Ransomware and other things that might be going on in the world. If it's totally cool with you, I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay, so forgive me. I kind of had some quick, hey, off the cuff, wanted to showcase some fun stuff. Again, we had put out with my day job, Huntress, and I don't by any means mean to make this a commercial, or I'm not trying to cram product or anything, but I just wanted to showcase, hey, what we've been up to, what we're doing. I don't know if folks were familiar with the Kaseya incident that has kind of grown to be a large conversation around July 2nd in 2021, which would have been the United States holiday weekend between July 4th when we kind of celebrate independence and all. There was a large scale and widespread devastating ransomware attack. And it was an interesting topic because it was a supply chain attack. And I don't mean supply chain like some of us nerds and some of us geeks might think of it when you say, oh, the CI/CD pipeline, continuous integration, continuous development. Now, it's sort of a procedural supply chain attack because the victim was an organization called Kaseya, and Kaseya is part of the managed service provider channel, where they support and provide operations and tech stack and security for lots of other businesses and their downstream businesses just as well. Sort of like hitting the internet service provider and suddenly everyone else's internet goes out. It's kind of in the similar vein, but this was the attack on their remote monitoring and management software, or their RMM. And that's the program that they use to push out updates or software changes or command and control on all the downstream computers and endpoints. So we started to notice, hey, we're getting phone calls and we're getting notifications from some of our own partners, some of our own customers that are saying, hey, my computers are hit with ransomware. All of my own partners have been hit, and the downstream businesses have this, the big scary screaming notification up on their desktop. And we noticed this trend is like, hey, the single commonality between all of these is that they're running this Kaseya VSA, and that is their remote monitoring and management software. So we tried to be in the trenches as much as we can. We tried to, hey, try to understand how this attack happened and could we recreate it? Could we better understand what was done and how would we maybe be able to recover from it? There are a lot of updates to this post here that I'm showcasing, but we eventually ended up being able to showcase this is how this ended up happening. There was a bug right? There was a misconfiguration, a vulnerability, and a flaw,
Mhm.
primarily being an authentication bypass that would lead to later down the line more damage being done. Hey, with that authentication bypass, you might be able to get into a web portal that would allow you to upload things. But you could upload anything that you wanted.
Whatever. Yeah.
And eventually that led to command injection.
Okay.
We tried to showcase the same idea. I'll go ahead and get started with the video if that's totally okay.
Yeah.
This is a great fellow researcher. I don't know if folks keep up with some of my content, but Caleb Stewart, a very, very good friend of mine. I know him personally. He had recreated and crafted this to showcase how it could very well have happened, how it did happen.
Mhm.
He's working with me kind of at Huntress these days, but we would be able to determine, hey, these are the endpoints that we saw the threat actor and the adversary actually reach out
Mhm.
and touch.
Okay.
Because we could see the IIS logs, we could see the web server connections, and then we would be able to piece together the same sort of thing if we were to review that code, if we were to actually take a look at it and understand it. We showcased a little demonstration, again, kind of being a little bit of the adversary ourselves, just to really get a better understanding of how this all happened. But you can
Mhm.
see, cool, we added a proof of concept file, but then we could eventually get a legitimate reverse shell. We could have code execution on that target, on that box.
Yeah.
So while that box was connected to the database, you could funnel out ransomware to all of the other endpoints
Mhm.
and agents, from Kaseya's partners to the partners' partners, all the way downstream. And this ended
Okay.
up ransoming about 1,000, maybe 1,500
Okay.
businesses.
Mhm.
That is kind of crazy to see. Um,
Yeah.
and this was the original logic flaw. There were some potential mishaps in how this authentication process would have looked trying. I hope that's interesting, and I
Mhm.
could totally dive into a little bit more if you'd
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
But
Sure, bro.
there was a lot of analysis and logs that we were digging through, and again, we were trying to figure out, hey, what did a threat actor particularly do?
Mhm.
This ended up being Revil, which is a ransomware threat actor, typically with Sodnakibi and sort of their payload. They ended up posting on their dark web onion site, the Happy blog is kind of what they claim it, and they said eventually down the line, hey, we'll offer a universal decryptor. We'll have the miracle cure that will be able to decrypt and recover all of
Mhm.
the infected and victim machines. They said you could have this for the ripe asking price of $70 million in Bitcoin, right?
Okay, that's a huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course it's crypto, right?
Yeah.
Bitcoin and Monero, that's the perfect getaway car for a lot of cyber
Yes.
criminals and ransomware operators now. Um, but I think eventually the story unfolded, and I think there was some law enforcement intervention that was able to eventually retrieve this universal decryptor. And Revil has since gotten into a little bit of hot water,
Mhm.
and that has sort of died down a bit. But
Yes.
what we wanted to be able to tell the story here is that we wanted to uncover how this incident happened by acting as the adversary, putting our hacker hats on and knowing
Mhm.
how does the offense work when you're
Exactly.
doing bug bounty, when you're doing penetration tests, etc. uh, that's what helps the good guys, that's what helps defenders and real businesses know how they can better protect their environment and their infrastructure. So we're looking for these indicators of compromise. We're looking for this tradecraft and the techniques here. You can see us super getting into the weeds.
Mhm.
But eventually we want to try and affect this. We want to change this and make it so that it doesn't affect people.
Mhm.
I'll get a little bit nerdy if that's all right.
Yeah, sure.
um, we noticed that the original payload that would have kickstarted this ransomware, pushed out through the database on all the endpoints and client machines, was this big long string of text. It was going to end up running the Windows command prompt to use PowerShell and eventually disable the antivirus firewall, right? Turn off Windows Defender.
Yeah.
but eventually it would run a cert util, which is kind of one of those living off the land binders, a unique native application on Windows. And it would try and decode an agent.crt that was uploaded with that arbitrary file upload. It would decode this file, and that was just a base 64 encoded rendition. If that cert util wanted to decode a file, the original input file, and then the later output file, we had an idea. What happens if that output file were to already exist? If there was a file that had the same name as their decoded output file, cert util just
Want to
gives
be able.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it throws its hands up in the air and doesn't end up dropping that secondary one. So again, we tried to showcase just a simple proof of concept in this.
Nice one.
Yeah, I think this is a kind of a trivial thing, right? You think, oh, if the file's already there, then hey, it doesn't get in the way. But maybe that's just the small enough breadcrumb that we might be able to use to protect people from being hit by this strain of ransomware.
Yeah.
So we had a quote unquote vaccine, appropriately named, right, during the world we live in now. But it would end up replacing what would have been the malicious agent.exe. But you could see, hey, cert util will just fail because it already exists. We ended up communicating this to other vendors. We ended up telling Kaseya, hey, we've taken this proactive effort and made these steps so that hopefully we could try to showcase this and prevent this. But then eventually we get to the real question of, hey, was this effective? Did it actually help stop the ransomware? And I'll have to say, look, I don't know. I don't have that visibility. We aren't sure. We aren't positive. But I would like to think, and I am confident that this would have had some impact. Whether it's 1 to 9, maybe it's single digits of businesses that it was able to help and actually kind of come to the rescue. Still, that saves that company, those employees.
Yes.
Yeah, that saves them the weeks of recovery, of trying to roll back backups, waiting for a patch, the disaster that, hey, my entire business has just crippled. So I really hope that would help some folks.
Even if you helped one company, you did your job. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a great topic and a great research. I really appreciate you showing it here today. Okay. We can move to the last part of the episode, and we can go to the community questions.
If I'm rambling too much, hey, say the word. I don't know how long you guys like to banter here, but if I'm just I won't stop talking, feel free to shut me off.
No, it's okay. Okay, let me get some questions. Okay, what is the roadmap to learn ransomware developments?
Ooh, interesting question. Yeah, ransomware development. I don't know. So I see a couple comments, on YouTube, and folks asking, hey, John, can you teach us malware developments? Can you help us make the fully undetected cryptor and something crazy? And it sounds wacky to ask because, hey, there's a little questionable ethically uncertain thing there. But at the same time, again, you might want to be a red teamer and a penetration tester and in that world where you want to emulate the adversary. So I have been keeping tabs on and been trying to work through the courses. I don't know if you've heard of Sector 7. Sector 7 Institute, they have some courses on malware development, just so that you can understand, hey, evading Defender or antivirus product XYZ, EDR product ABC. How do you bypass those defenses like the real threat actors do? And that gets into a lot of the cool, hey, you're calling out Windows APIs, you're writing a kernel level rootkit or malicious drivers, shenanigans like that. So if folks are really interested, I would certainly point them towards Sector 7 and their training there. I think it's Sector, but with a K rather than a C for the word sector. And I'm trying to work through some of those myself. If anyone has the interest, Sector 7, you can Google it.
Yeah, sector7.net, yes. Okay. Next question is, can ML technology stop ransomware attacks? And can we build ransomware based on ML too? What is the future of ransomware industry?
So I hear ML as the acronym for machine learning, right,
Mhm,
and artificial intelligence. So the question is, hey, can machine learning and artificial intelligence stop these threats, and how will that change the industry?
mhm,
Um, I know this is a bit of a very opinionated and very subjective question. So, in my opinion, just
mhm,
speaking as John, just speaking as me,
mhm,
uh, I have not drank the Kool-Aid yet on artificial intelligence and machine learning. I know a lot of folks are working hard in that space. There are some incredible innovations, but the whole idea of a strong AI or a fully can think on its own system, uh, I haven't seen it yet. I don't know how close we are if we're going to get there, and I don't know if that is going to be the silver bullet or saving grace that we really hope that it might
mhm,
be. Um, some of the automated machine implemented defenses like antivirus product XYZ or EDR, whatever, um, I I think they miss sometimes. I
yeah,
think sometimes they're just sleeping on the job. And
mhm,
that's okay. It's really hard because you're essentially asking the computer to see the future. you know,
yes,
when you craft a vulnerability or an exploit, when you're doing bug bounty, you may very well have just found a 0 day that no one has ever seen before. You've written this out to exploit something.
mhm,
Maybe the back end antivirus and defenses won't be able to know what that is because it's literally never seen it before. And its training model and machine learning and AI just hasn't given it that foresight. Um, I don't know if it will be everything that we want it to be, but I could very well be wrong, and I'd love to be proven wrong. Um, with machine learning and artificial intelligence on the horizon, I don't know if we'll see an extreme change personally.
okay. Next question is, how the ransomware is able to spread over all the devices in the network? And if I had ransomware inside my VM, is it has the ability to escape from it?
Yeah. Okay. So, good question on how ransomware will spread laterally and move throughout different machines and computers. Um, and not just strictly ransomware, right? That goes for any malware, a virus,
Mhm.
a worm, etc.
Well, yeah.
Uh, so this happens all through the same protocols that you might use, even unknowingly, on a day-to-day basis, right? Um, HTTP is one strange way that it could happen, right? But how you access the internet, your web browser.
Mhm.
SMB, the server message block, so the
Mhm.
same way you might access, hey, a network file share at work, or you try to be able to get a share drive, that's all through SMB. And we've seen stuff, hey, Eternal Blue or other shenanigans
Mhm.
and vulnerabilities and exploits that come through SMB. But it is a protocol that Windows will oftentimes just willingly broadcast out. So if you're in an enterprise, one computer might be able to bebop around to other computers. And that is one way that it could very well spread. Um, the second half of that question was, hey, if I have ransomware in a virtual machine, like in a sandbox or an encapsulated
Mhm.
environment, could it break out and infect my host machine? So I'll say yes with an asterisk because it could, but it is very rare. I know of and I've seen hypervisor breakouts and
Mhm.
VM escapes. It is technically possible sometimes in some cases, and I know it has happened, but it is some crazy idea. I think it is very rare, and I don't see it in today's world all that much anymore. Had you seen? Have you? I don't know if you have a whole lot of experience with that sort of thing, Youssef.
No,
Have you ever
actually,
seen any VM escapes?
no, actually, I'm focusing on application security,
Yeah.
yeah, and the cloud thing. Yeah. Okay. So how to respond to ransomware attack? What should
Ooh.
we do? Yeah.
Oh goodness. So that is certainly a whole can of worms.
Yeah.
Um, I would, and we've this could be a whole like hour presentation, right? uh, it boils down to really having a team on board. You're working with your coworkers, your friends, or your peers, whatever the case may be, and you're making the phone calls to the right people. If it's a legitimate incident, you call your breach coach or your cyber insurance policy holder, if you're in that world. You decide with your other legislator or executive members, hey, what sort of messaging do we need to be doing about this? Is this going to end up in the news? Am I going to be a headline on TV or in the newspapers? What can you say proactively to either be forthcoming with this or I don't know, decide the stance that you want to take publicly if it comes to that, or even if it comes to a much higher circuit of law, and you might go to the judicial system, talk about it in court, etc. The technical work is going to need to be done by engineers and your techs and you, if you're a member of that team, right? The biggest thing is backups. We say that all the time, but it's the absolute hard truth. When you can have the vetted plan implemented already ready for how to roll back from backups, a lot of folks might say, hey, yeah, we have backups, we're all good, but they've never done it before from rolling out from backups. And you'll need to be able to validate and verify, are these backups safe? Were they already encrypted or destroyed or removed by the threat? Or even then, do we have sane backups, but are they sitting there waiting with the time bomb just to detonate ransomware yet again? So interesting things to think about. I always really recommend have offline backups. Don't let it be connected or touching or have any sort of network connectivity with anything. We used to work all in tape archives, tar files and all like that. We might need to take a page from that book when we're getting to today's day and age. Keep it as secure as you can.
Okay. There is another question saying, is the ransomware able to hit a cloud-based asset?
So in my opinion, yes. And I think, hey, this would be a good one for us to banter on, Youssef, if you'd like. Because cloud has its own weaknesses and flaws and misconfigurations. Is that fair to say? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. People ask, hey, can the cloud be hacked? It depends, right? It varies, but it is just someone else's computer. So if your DigitalOcean droplet, your AWS instance that you have spun up, or your Google Cloud, it's still a computer. It could still very well be, hey, if it's open to the internet, targeted and beat up. And we see that time and time again. Sometimes it's something as stupid and as simple as, hey, you left RDP open, or you left SSH accessible to the whole internet and it had a weak password. You didn't set up private keys, something like that. So wherever you can, you want to have that segmentation. You want to have that defense in depth. You want to have that separation of privileges and the best cybersecurity hygiene, as silly as it is to say. But that's really where the rubber meets the road. So do that testing as a bug bounty hunter, as a red teamer, as a pen tester, so you can bring it back to the real people making these defenses, make those defenses even better.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Last question. How to protect yourself from ransomwares, and what is the best antivirus out there to stop ransomware attack?
Ooh, okay. How to protect yourself. This is going to sound so silly because it boils down to, again, sort of the same boilerplate stuff we all tend to say. Long, complex passwords, enable MFA. And the reason we keep screaming about that is because it's right. The user education, the know what you're looking at is the biggest thing. And that is what I tend to tell folks as my most parting message is, you just have to know what you're doing. Look at what's in front of you. If you see a pop-up to do anything weird or unexpected on your computer, you can see it, and you need to take that thought to like, hey, is this allowing something to execute or run that I didn't expect? Am I downloading something that I probably shouldn't? Can I use that in a VM or do something?
Yeah. Crack the games.
Exactly. And there was a question in there, hey, what is the best antivirus? I, for one thing, can't tell you, hey, what to use, truthfully. In my opinion, I am a big proponent of Windows Defender. And some folks might say, hey, John, Defender wasn't all that bad. Wasn't all that good some time ago. And you're right. It had maybe a bit of a streak of just being under the weather. But right now, I think in 2021, going into 2022, look, Defender's a formidable foe. You it's got all the telemetry from every
Uh-huh.
single Windows computer out there. Microsoft's pooling that all in with their ATP and stuff. So
Mhm.
uh, it it's a sharp one. And I don't know if, hey, again, red teaming, bug bounty, pen testing, getting past Defender is sometimes tough to do.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. Okay. Um, I think we have finished the three parts of the episode, and thanks for being my guest today. I really enjoyed the talk with you and the presentation. Thanks, John.
Thanks so much for having me. Hope I wasn't rambling for too much, but this was a ton of fun. Thank you, Youssef.
Amazing. Bye bye.